Thanks for joining us today on Envision. We're talking about the School Boundary Task Force, which will have a heavy lift in the coming new year. The members have been notified and selected, and now we get to the meat of the work after the calendar turns. So what role will that Boundary Task Force have?
Well, first I want to say the number of people who volunteered to be on that task force was way more than we could accept, and so that was really something, I think, telling about our community.
Absolutely.
And how they want to be a part of the solution. So that was awesome and much appreciated, and tough to sift through who actually should be on that task force.
Yeah.
Now the heavy lift, that's an excellent phrase, because that's exactly right. Here's the analogy I use in terms of how are we going to make the decision on the boundaries. First of all, we're just looking at middle school and high school boundaries. The closer we've got to this function, the more we've realized we don't know where the new elementary school is going to go yet. And rather than do that twice in a couple of years, we're going to wait until we have more information on the elementary boundaries before we do that.
Sure.
So their task will be to take the guidelines that were just recently approved by the Board of Education. And really what that is kind of, if you think about bumper bowling, they've put the bumpers up.
Okay.
And so you've got the whole lane that you can travel, but here are the bumpers.
Yeah.
You got to stay within the bumpers to get down to the pins. The other analogy I would give is it's a relay. So they take the baton that is these guidelines, and the board has handed that off, or will hand formally in January, hand those guidelines off to the task force. The task force will have 3 meetings in January and February, or 3 meetings total over the span of January, February, to cuss and discuss all of the options available to them.
Sure.
And then what they'll do is give a recommendation or a list of recommendations back to the Board of Education. After you have the community, the task force do their job, and we have a series of 5 community meetings, they'll hand that baton back to the Board of Education next April, and then our board will have a decision to make. They'll get the information in April, they'll make a decision in June. I'm sure there'll be a lot of conversation between the end of April and the decision that's made in June, and and that'll be the relay race, the handing of the baton, and then the handing back of the baton.
This can really be it's a mirror, basically, of what we did during the bond task force, where the information was shared. Bond or facility task force folks asked questions. There was a lot of dialogue for understanding.
Asked for more information.
More information, right? And so it will mirror that process that we used the last time.
Very much so. I think when we get the task force involved and they're allowed to ask questions, things that we haven't thought of to this point, we're going to end up with a better product. The other thing that I think will be really clear really early is we don't have the answer. The task force and their duty will be critical to the final product. There's not some grand plan that we've got hidden in the closet that we just want people to endorse. This is truly an opportunity for input and community engagement on a critical issue, but also an issue that I know will divide some.
Yeah, we understand the emotion that goes into decision making of this magnitude. It impacts families who maybe thought their children were going to go here and that type of thing. And trust us, if we didn't have to do this, it wouldn't be something we chose to do.
It's not on my list of fun things to do.
No, but in order to make sure that we have diverse schools and that all students have equal access, it's a necessary part of the pie.
I think talking about the bond issue, it was up to our community to say, do we want to do this or not? And I think now it's also up to our community to, what do we want our schools to look like? And the task force, I believe, is representative of our community. And if it's not, that should come out in the community meetings. But I think that detail of engagement through the task force and through the community engagement really gives our community an opportunity to say, this is what we want our schools to look like. And by June of 2020, I think we'll have a really good plan, and probably by June of 2022 or 23, we'll be back to business as usual.
Right, right. Understanding that all of this takes time and understanding, and so we'll begin that process after the calendar switches to January, and we'll be going full steam ahead for several months till we find a solution. So thanks for joining us today on Envision, and we encourage you to participate in those public meetings when they're announced.